Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Talk Junkies, where tonight is going to be another interesting Sunday, as it is every Sunday in the household of the Weiss household. I have the pleasure of having two of my best friends here as well, Jesse, Johnny. Welcome. Thank you guys for joining. If you guys want to tune into last week's show, we did have Dan on, who's been on the show quite a few times to talk about his situation. So if you're curious about what Dan's situation is, just tune into last week's podcast. We wish the best for Dan. Dan, if you're listening, man, we're here for you. Anytime you need us, just give us a call, shoot me a text, whatever it is, my man. But yeah, tune in last week. It was a great show. But tonight is going to be a very interesting night. I've always been curious about just words and language, and I know, Jesse, you bring it up a lot too. So it's going to make for a really good podcast tonight. But I think that's where the start of it really comes to play. I mean, because whenever we all started saying words and stuff like that, that's where you can bring it back to. And I don't know, I'm kind of explaining it the wrong way. So maybe our guest...
A little bit.
Maybe
that's why we have Pao. That's why we have Pao. Pao will probably get it a little better than you.
But maybe our guest, he's written a book, and we have it here in the front for you guys to tell. But welcome, Pao Chang, to Talk Junkies, man. Thank you for joining so much. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Rock on, man. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, why you wrote the book, and where you are today, and where you got where you are.
Yeah, I came to America when I was 5, and then I grew up, had a normal childhood, just like everybody else. Went to a public school, just like most people, and but then I always had, since I was a child, I had these I would say experiences, like what people call like strange experiences. Like you heard about out of body experiences and things like that. And so I always knew that there was something more to reality than what we see with our physical eyes. And then when 9/11 happened, that kind of like sparked something inside of me, and it got me motivated into start searching into like conspiracy and secret societies. And then that took me down a rabbit hole, and I started studying a lot of information about like esoteric knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and that led me down to the legal system. I studied a lot about the legal system, and the legal system, it uses a lot of words, So when you go to a court, it's all about words. So I started to pay attention more to words, and I started studying words, and that led me to what I'm doing today. So.
Nice, man. So if you had to break it down what esoteric means, just for our listeners who are listening and they might not know what it is, what's the basic foundation of what it is?
Well, esoteric knowledge, the word esoteric, it means like within, because the eso in esoteric means within. So esoteric knowledge is basically inner knowledge, which it deals a lot with the spiritual world, which is the inner world. So esoteric knowledge is inner knowledge, basically.
Very nice. So is it like something that's popular? Because it's something that I've never really heard of before. Again, I talked to you earlier on the phone, and we've had Zachary Hubbard on before he's more numerology, but you're saying there's actually hidden words within the language. It doesn't really have to do with numerology, but I know you kind of do go into that a little bit.
Yeah, it's numerology. It takes you down to a certain level, to a certain path, and then there's the words too, where you can find the deeper meaning of the words, and that's where the esoteric knowledge comes into play, that can help you decipher the words, because there's the esoteric knowledge, the EXOTIC, exoteric knowledge, which is the outer knowledge, what most people see with the physical eyes. And there's esoteric knowledge, where it deals more with the intuition, your spiritual powers more. So it's hidden. So that's the esoteric knowledge.
So where does it all begin? At least from your research and the things that you've looked into, where does it all begin where you see esoteric knowledge kind of playing a role in society and shaping the way that it is?
It goes way back to the beginning, like, because there's always been the outer world and then the inner world. So, and then with the esoteric knowledge, that helps you to understand the inner world better. And it goes way back to the beginning of creation, basically. Yeah.
Can you give us an example of, like, for example, an English word or that has that secret meaning behind it? Like, can you give us an example of a word that has a secret meaning for our viewers out there?
Yeah, like one word is they use a lot. We see all the time. Like for example, like corporation. You know, we see all the time, and you know we see corporation everywhere. But the word corporation, when you start breaking it down, well, the legal meaning of corporation is it's an artificial person. That's the legal definition. And then when you break it down to the word, it becomes the word corpse. You know, corporation, corpse, and the word corpse, it's phonetically it's corpse, like sounds like a dead body, right? Corpse, like a dead body. So when you start looking at the legal definition of corporation, it's an artificial person, and an artificial person is you know, it's like a dead entity. So you can see the connection between a corpse and a artificial person and corporation. So corporations are just, you know, a dead body basically. Yeah. So that's how you find the deep. You see the correlationship, and you can find the like the deeper meaning of it. It's all hidden in the definition too. You have to pay attention to definition and then see what that leads you to, because the definition and the words, they're like the breadcrumbs that takes you to the, you know, the source basically. Yeah.
Oh, just okay. So as far as a corporation goes, because that makes sense, being like a dead entity, because anybody could fill that role. Being like a CEO, CEOs like come and go, but a corporation is this like a void to be filled with. Man, I'm probably like messing this up entirely. I'm just trying to like come off this. No, but that makes sense. I've never thought about like this, or thought about it like that as far as words go. But what is the real big importance of understanding the definition of words whenever how you talk? Because I do think that that's important, because a lot of things get misunderstood through speaking to another person, and the lack of knowledge from where this actually comes from. People can take it wrong in some way. And a lot of times that has to do with tone of voice and things like that,
that's
too.
like context in communication.
I know, but a lot of times it also comes down to just like a not understanding of the definition of the word itself, which is very important to understand, like, especially what you're backing. Like, if you're backing something, I've always said, if you're backing something, you should know it front to back if you're fully backing it. So the understanding of language is really important. Man, I'm trying to think of a good question right now. This one's a little over my head right now.
But like, so whenever you just use the specific example of corporation, I think whenever we were talking last week, like, for people to like really understand, because I mean, it makes sense to me, and I can look at it that way. And whenever I first found you and you agreed to come onto the show, I started looking more into it and trying to understand more what it was. So like when you look at the word weekend or week work, you know, like when you work for the week, it makes you weak during those 5 days, and then the weekend you're able to it's the end of the week, so you can try and, you know, get your health back and stuff like that. But is it just people picking and choosing words, or did they set these words before we even knew it, because they knew that they would be spells if we use them in that way? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with like a higher force to put all this together. Because when you start studying this, like the words and how it all fits, like it's impossible for like man to do it. The way I see it, it's just impossible. So to me, I see like it's not just there are some men that are doing it, but overall, I see it like a higher force is doing too. And here's another example of a word that if you pay attention to words, you can see what's going on, you know, because everything that they do to you, they put it in words and they hide it in the definition. So, for example, like Sunday, right? We all know we hear Sunday all the time, but the word Sunday, when you start break the word apart, it becomes Sunday, which is the day of the sun, and then the sun represent, you know, the sun produces light, right? So the sun, it represents the symbol of life and light. And then, so when you start getting to, you know, I'm a religious man. So so I might get into some religion stuff. So when you start studying that, and then you start to understand what Sunday is, and then you understand that Jesus is the light of the world. He represents the sun, like a light power. Then you understand why Christians go to church on Sunday, because it's the day of the sun.
So I'm just curious. Sorry, real quick. Do you speak two languages? I don't want to assume that, but I'm just curious.
Yeah.
So
I speak. Yeah.
So does esoteric, does it apply to your first language or both? Does it apply in the same way? Have you done any like digging deep in that aspect?
I haven't because because I speak the Hmong language, and the Hmong language is not really spoken. It's not really well known, and there's not a lot of people that write. There's not a lot of researchers that done research on the Hmong language, so I don't really have a good tool to look at the etymology of the Hmong language, the words and stuff. So that's why I focus a lot in the English language, and the English language, it goes back to like the Latin language, and then goes back to the Hebrew, and then it goes back to the Proto-Sinaitic alphabet. So I think that's where the origin, it goes back to that.
Okay.
I was going to say, I feel like the English languages, and I don't know because I don't know any other languages, but I've heard them, and I feel like the English language, we're like a derivative from so many other languages that it makes sense for those words to be like compounded into other things. Bringing up the Sunday thing again, though, and you talking about, to me, it's so the esoteric part of it would be delving deeper into the meaning of the word instead of just the logical definition of, for example, Jesse used last week when we were talking about this podcast, breakfast, which has a quite literal meaning of breaking from a fast.
A fast, yes.
But as to where, so that would be what'd you call it? The exoteric meaning, as to where there's an esoteric meaning, which would be something deeper if you were to like analyze it more. And breakfast may be a terrible word to, associate with that, but
which, I mean, and I don't know if you can vouch for this, but I'm assuming you can't break everything down into something else. Like sometimes words are just words, right? But
sometimes it's hard to break it down because I can't break down every words. I have to sometimes I have to feel what words that I'll be able to break down, and then I just go from there. And then sometimes I just follow my intuition, basically. It kind of guides me to what words I need to decipher, and that helps a lot. But I can't, if I just decide to just look at a word and try to decipher it, I might not be able to do it because,
Well, it's like the most important words, or not even the most important, but the things that guide our society into this certain direction. It seems as though that those are the important words that we should be looking at. And like corporation's a great example because they're the ones, we all three believe that we live in a corporate oligarchy. So, I mean, that's a perfect word. It's weird that you even brought that word up, but the fact that you did, that's an important word. And I feel like, I'm sure you can give multiple examples, but like, what is like one part of your book that you would say is the most important part for people to understand?
One of the most important part of the book is to teach people to be aware of how powerful words are, like how it can control their mind, program their mind, basically. Because computer, right? Computer, they're called programs, and the program in computer, it's made up of just letters and numbers, right? So our mind kind of works that way, where our mind is when you dig deep, our mind. That's why they call it programs. When you watch TV, they call it programs. There's a reason why they call it program, because the program is being used to program your mind, basically. That's why they call it a TV program. So the letters and the words, when it gets into your mind, it can program your mind, and then your mind can project that software as like to change your reality. So it's kind of like when you look at a computer screen, you see images. All images is in colors, but behind that image and color is just numbers and letters. So the mind works similar to that.
How do you determine what is? Man, I'm trying to think how to word this question. How do you determine what is closer to like fact for these words and what can just be made up? Because there has to be that level of, for example, you talked about program. And there's got to be, because man, I don't want to sound like I'm attacking you or anything like that. That's not the way I want to come off. But like for program, I could make up something like, oh, program for TV actually means like projected grammatica or something like that. You know what I mean? Like I could make something that sounds smart enough to someone else and they could believe that. So how do you differentiate that like fakehood or falsehood from a more grounded thing? Does that make any sense? I don't know if I'm wording that correctly.
Yeah, the way I was talking about is more like just in general, like the program, because when you start studying and you start looking at the different connection, but I just don't like to look at one connection. I like to find other connection, and when we start connecting a lot, then it's kind of like there's something there. If it's just one connection, then it might be like might not be true. But when you start seeing so many connection coming together, it just I just don't see it as a coincidence.
I got you.
Yeah, I think like with programs specifically, I think it's you can apply that to real life and see the actual result of what program means. And how you talked about a computer program, again, he's bringing evidence to the table and saying, whenever you're watching TV, it's a TV program, and look what it's doing to society. It's legitimately programming society to shape it in a way that these corporations want it to. So I think that there's a lot of evidence with that specific word. I understand what you're saying and what you were asking him. But
I have to play the other side sometimes to get
definitely.
So, like from maybe I'm getting this completely wrong, but do you think that there is, and I know this is super conspiracy theory level here, but there are people that have changed language to subliminally influence people to go a certain way. Is that what you think? You think it's been used for like evil or good? Like as far as, because you saying that is there something subliminally happening within language? That'd be my first part to the question. And depending on that answer of yes or no, like, is it being used incorrectly?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe language can be used for good and evil, and I think a lot of the language has been corrupted. If you want to control society, if you want to dumb them down, all you have to do is just control the language and dumb down their language.
Absolutely. Look at Twitter. Look at Twitter.
They can only become as like, it's probably not the right way to say it, but they can only become as smart as the language. So if the language is corrupted, then there's a barrier that prevents them from going above that, and then you can dumb them down. So all you gotta do is just corrupt the language, and then you can dumb down society.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Because that's like the whole, I mean.
Well, weren't we very proper whenever, like back in the day or hundreds of years ago, the way and I know language, it evolves, but like with the way that we talk, it's way different. I don't know if that just slang.
I think that's, and I could be 100% wrong, I think that's more of a structure thing rather than actual. We joked about earlier, literally before the podcast started, we were talking about Jimmy Crack Corn, and then how kids these days are saying spill the tea. Like they mean the same. They mean the same thing, but there's like you're talking about how old English or English before us was more proper.
Yeah.
But I'm saying I don't think that slang, me personally, I don't think that slang takes away from communication. I think it just evolves it in a way to where certain people understand it and certain people don't, but it's still a form of communication.
Realistically, you're almost getting down to hermeneutics at that point, which I don't know if you delve into that at all as far as hermeneutic translation from language to language, information being lost or gathered in different things within, like lost in translation kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the problem with translating language. There's a lot of, for example, like the Hebrew language, it's more like a metaphorical language. So there's so much hidden information in it. So when you translate that to English, there's a lot of meaning is lost, and so that's the problem about when you translate languages.
It's so crazy I'm digressing a little bit here, but it's so crazy to think about the fact that there are languages out there, and I literally just watched like a YouTube documentary on this like a week ago about how there was a language, and it's not Egyptian hieroglyphs, but it was something like that, where their language wasn't based on like consonants and vowels and the way that we form language. Every letter or symbol that they used was more of an emotion.
Like cuneiform?
I don't know what that is, so
Okay.
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
But it was everything they did was so like you could spell something out, you could write a sentence, but depending in the order that things were or the context of it, it completely changed what was being said.
Right.
Because these symbols didn't like make a ch sound or a R sound or whatever. They weren't about a sound and how you pronounce something. They were about a feeling.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you mean? Like whenever, so you can, so when we speak languages, like our everyday conversation and stuff, like do people realize that you say that there could be spells used? Like whenever we're just having everyday conversation and we don't even know it type of thing?
Yeah, when you study the deeper knowledge that I've been studying, and you start diving really deep into esoteric knowledge, and you start understanding that the reason why they use words a lot, and the reason why, for example, like when a child start swearing a lot, what does his parent tell him to do?
Don't do
When
that. Don't say that.
Parents usually say, like, sometimes they say stop cursing, right? So why do we use the word cursing to represent that kind of language?
Oh, interesting.
And then when you start breaking down the word cursing, it's curse. The reason why they call it cursing is because when you're swearing at it, when a child is swearing or anybody's swearing, what you're doing is you're casting dark magic spells on them, and that's why it's called cursing.
So that's literal, like what we consider to be taboo words are more legitimate and actually have a more negative effect. Because I need to know, man. Because I literally lubricate my life in profanity. So you need to let me know this like ahead of time before I do any more damage.
Oh yeah, when you start talking about this, it can get really deep, and it can get to that area where like a lot of people are not comfortable talking about, because you start getting into magic, and when you start talking about magic, like a lot of people they look at you like you're crazy, and they think that it's just these fantasy thing that
screw those people, man.
Yeah, no, that's fine. If you want to, that's the interesting
people.
stuff, man. If you want to talk about like magic and spells and stuff, we're down. We're here to listen.
Screw those people, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything's open here,
so
man.
basically, yeah, so when you that's why like each letter, it's also a sigil, and a sigil is a magic symbol. So that's why when you study like magic, there's when like they make these spells, they always have like letters in it. The reason why they have letters in it is because each letter is a sigil, and that sigil helps to amplify the spell. And so when you start putting those letters together into words, like we use magic all the time. I know some people think that magic is evil. We use it all the time because when you put letters into words, it's called spelling, right?
Yeah.
And when you take out the ing of spelling, it becomes spell, and the word spell is magic spell. So when you start understanding that each letter is a sigil, every time you write words, you are practicing the art of magic. But magic can be used for good and evil, and that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I feel like language is a. Oh, go ahead.
Do you think it's not so much contextual, or that's the wrong word to use. It's not so much like, because you probably text people, and that lost sense of like that face-to-face emotional back and forth between people, to where I could be like, man, I hope you have a really good day today. Or I could be completely sarcastic and be like, man, I hope you have a really good day today after we have an interaction. So there's some level of sarcasm. So is there any play in how you actually say things too, in the same sense, as far as how that works out? And maybe it's more like actually the person trying to get across what they actually feel, or is it just strictly word based?
I think your emotions and your thoughts, I think it affects the words too. In my, the way I see it, your emotions, your thoughts, that's the way I see it. And then the words itself, that plays a big part too. So it's not just like one thing. There's many layers. It's something that's really hard to explain too, because there's so many layers in it.
So with describing what you're talking about and just how the magic works, whether it's good or evil, what would be a good description or a good example, like, of maybe something you did research on in the past that you were able to see that kind of play out? And when I'm talking past, I'm saying like maybe 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago or even biblical times, or something that you were able to put your finger
Yeah,
on.
when people start using magic for like selfish reasons and to like cast like dark spells, that's like a to me that's like a big no-no, because that's you're messing with the laws of the universe when you start doing that. And then when you start messing with the laws of the universe, it always come back and bite you in the butt. So
That's true. I
that's
believe
to
in
me.
karma. I'm a thorough believer in karma. I love that. I'm a massive believer in karma.
So do you think like the elites right now, this is something that they practice? I'm to full-heartedly believe that they are, because I think that they have an advantage to what your book is. I think that they have this utmost, like they have way more knowledge when it comes to this subject than we do, and they use it to their advantage.
Yeah, they know about this stuff. It's common knowledge to them, and they have the knowledge to use magic on people, and so that's why a lot of it is just they just use the TV is like television is one of their favorite tools to broadcast spells on people, and that's why they're using spells to program people, program their mind, and that's how they control people. And then because right now you see a lot of people out there protesting and doing a lot of things, a lot of crazy stuff, and a lot of them are programmed and they don't even know it. And that's a scary part, is that they're hypnotized by magic spells and they don't even know it.
And it comes down to the words specifically too that they're reading and seeing, and they see those words, and it again, like you said, it's almost like a spell.
Yeah, and it programs their mind subconsciously, so they're not even aware of it.
And I don't know if this is something that you could answer, but I think it's just fascinating that I mean, I watched excuse me, I watched a lot of TV as a kid. I watched a lot of cartoons and stuff like that I look back on now, and I see those subliminal messages within those cartoons or movies. And I'm almost curious how I was able to break away from that, like that's just like, I wonder if some people in their genetic genome or whatever it is, are able to just break away from these spells or these magic spells that are being cast, as opposed to some other people who aren't.
Yeah. One of the most powerful thing you have is your awareness to like break the spell, is your awareness. So when you become aware of it, like the reason why I wrote the book is to help people become aware of what's going on, like with the words. So when you become aware of it, then the spell doesn't affect you as much. And then when you watch like like a TV program, and they talk a lot of negative stuff, you can feel that negative effect trying to like program your mind. You can just feel it. So once you become aware of it, but when you're not aware of it, it affects you at the subconscious level, and you don't even feel it. So that's a scary part.
That is scary. And I wonder, and they probably used it in different ways, but before television and stuff like that, this still had to have existed, but
Yeah.
in a
You
separate
had radio and books and all kinds of media.
And newspapers back then, they used a lot of newspapers, and the media has changed a lot. So
But
So
I-
do you,
that's what,
man, I'm gonna kind of go off on the rocker here a little bit and say, like, what about music? Because music can influence emotion quite a bit too, almost
Oh,
in
yeah,
the same way
music,
that language can do. Like,
music is very powerful.
yeah.
Music is very-
So do you feel the same way about like music influence as to where like traditional language also can influence you in the same way, in the same sense as what you're talking about?
Yeah, music to me, music is even more powerful, because when you speak words and you add music to it, it amplifies the energy in it, and it programs people's mind even easier. So music is very powerful.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. I play a little bit of guitar, a little bit of drums. So
And it can be used. Music can be used for good and or evil. So it just like it all depends on your intuition and what you're using it for. If you're using music to change people's life, then that's great. But if you're using music to manipulate people, control them, corrupt their mind, then that's going down the negative path.
Let me ask, and this is breaking away a little, but how much? So I've never looked into, I guess you would call it esotericism. I've never looked into esoterics at all. But you're not the first person I've heard it from. I've heard the word before. I've heard the word esoteric and esoteus and all these different things. I think that's Greek or whatever. But how many people are actually researching this and are kind of active in this community, for lack of a better term, of people who are looking into this kind of thing?
There's not, compared to other topics, esoteric knowledge there's not a lot of people doing it, because it goes really deep into the knowledge, and then it gets into certain topics that a lot of people think it's taboo, and then a lot of people think that it's scary, and that's one of the ways that the elite, the globalist elite, like one of the ways that they hide this information is they put it under like these, what do you call it, like taboo topics, and then people get scared and they don't want to go research it. Because when I was younger, I used to thought that too, and when I started actually going to study it, and I'm actually like, wow, this stuff is pretty empowering, because it helps you see the deeper meaning of words, and you start seeing like the deeper meaning of everything that you see, and and then you become empowered, and it's harder when you become empowered. It's harder for them to control you. That's why they don't want you to learn this stuff.
Man, that's such a good message. That is such a good message, man, right there.
That makes complete sense. That goes back to...
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful right there, what you just said.
So, I mean, that goes... a saying that says knowledge is power. Mm-hmm. When you learn the right knowledge, it is power. And that's why they don't want you to learn this stuff, because the difference between like the globalist elite and us is that they have the knowledge, and that's why they're powerful. We don't. So they want to keep it that way. They want to keep that way, so they have to dumb us down, corrupt our language to keep us dumbed down.
It's a need to know basis is what they would tell you.
But the crazy part to me is you're talking about the fact that they know that people are going to seek this knowledge. So what do they do to prevent people from seeking this? You can either, like in the olden days, destroy it, quite literally book burning and stuff like that, when that was a literal destruction of knowledge. Or you can do the more refined method that you're talking about right now, which to me is...
Encrypt it?
No, taking these things and making them taboo to talk about.
Okay.
If you tell everybody that black magic is fake or scary or shouldn't be messed with, then you've got people who are either going to be like, oh, black magic is a hoax and I don't care, this is gobbledygook and I'm not interested at all, or B, you're going to have people who believe in it but are so afraid of it because it's so taboo that they're not going to delve into it either.
It'd be a small percent of people who'd want to know what it is.
Exactly. So you're hiding that knowledge from people without destroying it, which is even scarier, honestly.
So what would you say? So what would be a good practice for people, short of listening to this podcast? I think that would help people understand what to do to kind of beat the system. Because, Pao, if you were to listen to all 162 of our podcasts, I think you would get the common theme of what it is that we believe, and it's the corporate oligarchy that rules this, at least the Western world, or if not the whole world, most likely the whole world. But what can people do to wake up? And what can we do to avoid these spells or these word spells that people are going through with music and television and just everyday conversation? What can we do to avoid that, and how can we become more aware?
I think it comes down to, knowledge is really important. It comes down to knowledge, like just learning, because the knowledge will program your mind, and then when knowledge starts programming your mind, you're able to see all this. It's kind of like when you put a new program into a computer, right? When let's say you want to do some editing software, and you put in Photoshop into a computer. Before it didn't have Photoshop, you couldn't do that. But when you put that new program in, now you can edit photos and stuff. So knowledge is like that. When you learn new knowledge, it programs your mind, and now you're able to see something that you wouldn't be able to see before, or you'll be able to understand something that you didn't understand before. So that's why knowledge becomes really important, and that's why they always say like knowledge is power, because that's what knowledge do to your mind, and so that's why they always try and dumb us down and keep us busy with sports and all this other stuff instead of learning about law and learning about the knowledge of esoteric knowledge. They don't want you to learn that stuff. They don't want you to study law, because law is very powerful. So that's why I study a lot about the legal system. And when you start understanding how the legal system works, how to use words, you can basically the judges and the lawyers, they don't want to mess with you, because you understand how the system works. You understand how to use words. So when you're in court, it's all about words. That's why they call it a court. Like a basketball court. Volleyball court is where you go and play games, right?
Woo.
So when you go to
Wow.
court,
Dude, that's deep.
Wow. No.
I
yeah.
love it, man.
so
Pow.
when you go
Wow,
when
man.
you go to court, they're not playing basketball there. They're playing legalese.
No, it's the
So they're playing
prosecution and the
legalese.
defense, right? It's the prosecution and then the defense. So it's like we're starting off on different sides of the court right now, even though it's not lined up. It's lined up the other way because you're sitting like that. But yeah, man, that's wow, man.
Yeah, so it's all about words, and when you understand this stuff, like the judges, they don't want to mess with you because they know when you say the right words, they have to obey, or otherwise they get kicked out. So they understand how powerful words are, and legalese, that's all it is. Legalese is an ancient magic art of words, and that's how they use words to manipulate you, to basically trick you into agreeing to be, like a corporation or a legal fiction, so that they can have jurisdiction over you, because they know they cannot have jurisdiction over the soul, because the soul, that's God's jurisdiction. So that's why they have to trick you into becoming a legal fiction, so they can have jurisdiction over you. So when you go to court, that's all it is. It's game. That's why it's kind of like the word. That's why they call it a trial, right? A trial. When you go to court, it's called a trial. And when you go play, like before you go join a team in like a basketball, it's also called a trial. But it's the way it's spelled is different. Like
See if you make it. They're saying if you can make it right now.
So phonetically, it's tryout, so TRYOUT. But then when you look at the definition of a tryout, it's a trial, TRIAL too. So you see the connection there.
Really interesting
Yeah.
stuff,
So
man.
the judge is there. He's like the referee. So he's in there to manage the rules of the game, and he knows all the rules of the game. So
You're not wrong, man. And the way that we're brought up, and you're completely right, is the fact that, man, when I was 5, my dad was watching Chiefs football. And that's one thing I got interested in right off the bat when I was 5. Like, if my dad were to sit me down, and granted, maybe he could have made it fun for me to learn about the legal system or the world that we live in, not necessarily the legal system, but I'm just telling you, the things that distract you are the first things that you learn in life. Is sports, boom, and maybe not everyone agrees with that, but for me, that was a big part of my life up until just recently, where like I've kind of just discovered, like, hey man, like after having kids and just realizing that sports is a distraction. And I'm wasting time watching grown men make millions of dollars while I'm just watching them do it, as opposed to learning what the legal system is and walking into court and being ready for my trial. You're completely right, man.
Man, you're absolutely right with that. But my thing is at some point, the more knowledge that you get, you realize how dismal the world is. Like, how many times have we been on this podcast and we have people on to where you get a piece of the world where you're like, man, I didn't know it was that bad. And then you come to realization that, man, this really is bad right now. And you do your work to try to, be a better person yourself, because it's the one thing you control is yourself. So you try to do that first. But then sometimes things get really dismal. And I think that little escapes like sports and like stuff like that aren't so
You need the bread. You need the bread and wine once in a while.
And this is my opinion on this. To where you need to be able to not think about how dismal the world is, because the world is not.
You have
where
to
it
have
should
you
be
have to
right
have the
now.
bread and wine. You have to have the arena. You have to have the
world
pony
is not-
show to be able to rein in
and it's
some of
sometimes nice to forget. You can't always constantly be thinking about the things you can't control and how bad the world is. Because I really do think America's not the greatest nation in the world. We live in a very, really non-progressive society right now. So many things could be done differently. And if I spent all day long thinking about that, I would have slit my wrist like 3 years ago. So I need like some other things to distract myself, which I don't think is necessarily an issue, and I don't know if that's exactly how you feel too, because I don't want to ever downplay sports, because I think you need that escape.
Sometimes you need a break. Like,
no, absolutely. Like mentally, it's wearing.
Take a vacation, or watch. I watch sports too. Sometimes you just need a break, and I watch sports too. I don't do a lot, but once in a while I watch it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes once in a while you need a break. Yeah, you don't want to just focus on this. It'll drive you crazy.
No, because because it's so dismal. If you really go down that road, and knowledge is power, but it's also like,
But
it's
hold on,
also
no, I
kind
don't-
of a burden too.
I don't like-
knowledge is a burden too.
Jesse, hold on. I don't like the way that you go to. I don't like the way that you take knowledge and kind of paint it in the way that you're about to paint it. Because
I'm sorry.
but no, hold on.
I don't mean to offend you.
No, you're not offending me. I'm just saying, in my opinion, like if more people were aware of what's going on and we didn't grow up and if everyone was more aware and we weren't being cast these spells, you know what I'm saying, and we were actually all aware of what was going on, progression would happen at a higher rate. And it's not to say that we would know everything, but like the current state of what we're in right now is unsustainable, and it's very unhealthy for a lot of people's psyche. But if we were all on the same page and we were all trying to progress and travel the world, travel other galaxies and progress,
Be respectful of other people.
Yeah, but,
that sounds crazy.
No,
being respectful of other people.
But what I'm saying is like you can't just. Sports are year round. You can watch it daily.
Yeah,
it could be a distraction every single day.
I think
in anything can become. Too
I was
much.
going to say,
I feel like
hold
we're going off on track.
We are.
We need to get back to Pao's. Like,
yeah, no, I agree.
Real quick, I just want to. You have to find a balance though between what Jesse was saying and what you were saying. Is that you have to like? So, for example,
it's mediation. You're talking about mediation.
Yeah.
Right now.
Well, moderation. Everything in moderation.
My bad.
But you have to find a balance. For example, there's nothing wrong with turning on your TV. And for 30 minutes out of your day, not every day, but I mean right now, you want to turn on your TV and relax and watch the Kardashians. Go for it.
Ugh.
But hold up. Go for it. I don't get, dude, I've never watched it in my life. I have no idea. But I'm just saying, let me finish my shit. If you want to turn that on and watch the Kardashians or watch Survivor or the NFL or whatever, go for it. But the moment that your day in conversations involve that, when all you're talking about is the NFL, or all you're talking about is what's going on with the Kardashians, or what's going on in the new season of Survivor, and that's all that you're influenced by, now you're ignoring the outside knowledge. Now you're just letting your mind go to the entertainment zone where nothing else matters, which is unhealthy.
Right.
Your soul has been sucked into that
But you
network
can't,
vortex.
but like going what Jesse was saying, you can't only be focused on the truth, and knowledge all the time, because if you do that without any break, you'll crack.
I feel like we strayed away from
I know.
Pao.
Sorry.
Pao needs to be the center of this, man. Pao needs to be the center of this, man. I'm trying to keep you centric for this podcast,
Okay. But yeah, like you said, you need to take a break too. You don't wanna focus too much, like your whole life. You don't want to just sit in your room and just study the stuff your whole life. You want to get out there and enjoy the world too, and focus on your family too, and take a vacation every now and then. So that's what I like to do too. So I don't spend all day studying this stuff.
Yeah, no, and I get it, man. I just think like our priorities have gotten lost somewhere in the wasteland. Just based upon these spells that these people have cast and these corporate elites and these people who control the world, they've shaped the world that they want us to live in, is what I'm saying. And we play into that because of the esoteric knowledge that they used against us. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, they've used knowledge against us for a very long time, but that's starting to change now because a lot of people are starting to study this stuff, and they start becoming aware of the spells, and they start understanding how the legal system is used against them. And so it's changing. Like I see it coming, and they don't like it. But has there ever been a through your research, has there ever been a period where you have saw where the people had more knowledge than they do now, and they were, that the elites didn't have this superior knowledge or esoteric knowledge over the populace? Would that be during Jesus' Christ time, or had they always had this?
Jesus Christ?
Yeah, Jesus Christ time, or had they always had this overarching control over us by using this type of?
I think they've been having this control for even back when Jesus was around. Because back then, the people, a lot of them didn't even know how to write and read. So it was, I think it was worse back then. But like here now, it's just that they have the technology to control everyone. But back then, they didn't have that. So now they have the technology, so they're able to control the whole world. The whole world is now under the control. But a lot of people are waking up now, and it's their spells are losing effect, and the control is starting to lose their effect, and so it's starting to change. And I see that change coming, and they don't like it, but they can't stop it because once mankind wakes up, you can't stop them from waking up because that's the power of their consciousness.
Man,
we all connected through consciousness. We're all connected. So when more people start waking up, collectively, that consciousness start rising, and it's hard for them to control when it start rising higher and higher. But when it's lower, when the consciousness is lower, then it's easier for them to control. That's why they want to dumb us down, keep the consciousness at a lower level, lower state.
I am not a religious person. I grew up in a Christian household. I myself do not claim to be Christian at this point, just from how I was raised. I love talking anything religious debate and everything like that. I love where you're coming from with all this. How much do you, and you're talking about like the world getting better, and I love your positive mentality on this, but I am not on Facebook, and I hate Facebook so much, and I think that this is like the festering scab that needs to be lifted from the world. What is your opinion on Facebook, basically? I just went on a weird
That was
thing.
a weird
thing I just did, pal. I'm sorry. What's your opinion on Facebook?
Let's talk junkies, baby.
Because there's so much like on Facebook. How do you feel about Facebook? Whether or not you have a Facebook page or not, whatever, you can slander the name.
Like I said, I'm not a big fan of Facebook. I don't use it much. But it's like the Matrix, where if you want to go help people in the Matrix, you have to go in there, be a part of it.
No, you have to. So like us trying to reach out, like how do we get our name out there, even though we don't agree with Facebook?
We don't like YouTube, but we use
we're
YouTube.
on YouTube though. No, it's just a weird thing.
So like, I don't like Facebook either, but sometimes you have to go into that Matrix to help people, to get them out in there. So it's like the movie The Matrix, where they have to, Morpheus had to go in there and help wake up Neo and bring him out into the real world. So that's sometimes you have to go into the Matrix too. So
I love that analogy.
However
hard it was, he did find Neo. It could have been extremely hard. They don't show that in the movie, how hard he searched for Neo.
Well, no, he was meant to find Neo.
Right.
That was his sole purpose.
I'm just saying the time that it took.
I will get into. I love those movies. I will get into that.
But no, it's a valid point of how you have to go into. I mean, we talk about how much we hate YouTube. We all talk about how much we hate YouTube, but we use YouTube as a platform to initiate change or whatever, because you have to.
Well, to verify exactly what we're saying, nothing was ever wrong with Facebook, and nothing was ever wrong with YouTube. It's what they turned into.
It's a tool to be used.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's this manipulation of people to get them through exactly what you're talking about, through language, because how else are they going to do it? This is how information is passed, is language. What you're getting down to, which I hope I'm not messing up at all, is that information is passed through language. So if you can start to be corrupt and subliminally change things about this one fundamental thing about human information exchange, then you can mess with the whole thing. And I think Facebook in a horrible way is manipulating it in the wrong way. But not even to go down the Facebook road. I just had to bring that up.
Control the whole nation. All you have to do is just, if you can control the media, you can control the whole nation just through the media. And so when people are not aware of how the media is used to control them, then you can control a whole nation. But when people start waking up and start realizing how they're being manipulated through the media, then it starts to fall apart, and then the media becomes less powerful. But I see a lot of good change coming because of. Are you guys into like blockchain technology at all?
Oh, we've talked about
like crypto.
Yeah, we've talked about it before.
Crypto. Yeah, we've talked about it. Johnny's the guy. These guys actually invest in it. I do not.
Hold up. I do not invest in crypto. I put $100.
You got $100. You invest in crypto.
Hold up.
I do not have a single penny in crypto.
Real quick. He's not just talking about crypto though.
He's talking about blockchain.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You're talking about blockchain, which is different. That's Microsoft uses blockchain for uncrypto kind of things. Like it's the other way around. Cryptocurrency uses blockchain, not the other way around. Blockchain is a thing that can exist without cryptocurrency being a thing.
Yeah, it's a technology. It's kind of like, like you said, like Microsoft, they use, Windows, and then blockchain is kind of like that, but it's its own software. And the thing about blockchain is that it's more focused on decentralized. So that's where I see the world going to. It's not becoming like centralized. It's becoming more decentralized now because of the blockchain technology that's out now. And so there's a certain social media that wants to, new company of social media that's coming out that's built on blockchain technology that's gonna bring power back to the people because it's all decentralized, and so it's harder for people to control. So I think this blockchain technology is gonna help bring back the power back to the people.
I love it. I've talked about it before on the podcast when we weren't talking about crypto.
So what's like the definition of blockchain, and have you broken down the word blockchain?
I haven't looked into it yet. It's something that it's a interesting word, so I might have to look into it, but I haven't looked into it yet. But I have a look into cryptocurrency, and especially I support the decentralized cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
So because that brings back, there's some cryptocurrency that's too centralized and that can be controlled, but the decentralized one is for example, like Cardano and Bitcoin, they're like decentralized, so it's harder for them to control. Because like if I want to send you money, like Bitcoin, I just send it from phone to phone. No one can stop that. So and the bankers, they don't like that. The globalist bankers, they don't like that at all. So
I love.
Now, see, my issue, and I'm going to go off on a weird thing here, which I talk about a lot on this podcast, which you are way more positive than me, by the way. I'm way more negative. Because I think overall, the human hierarchy that ends up happening is over a long enough period of time, no matter what government is in place, humans will kind of mess it up and then all of a sudden kind of ruin things. And then you see a flipped of script. You know what I mean? Like you see that throughout history. So the same thing happens anytime people like talk about, oh man, there's going to be this new thing and it's going to be less corrupt and all this. Well, humans are really good about corrupting things in general, and we're all a part of that. Like, so I'm the more negative side of you to what you're saying as to where, and I hope it turns out positive. But my history knowledge and all this, I'm like, man, humans just tend to mess things up, and we end up using things for evil and then always corrupting things. And then the 1% will always be at some advantage, whether or not it's like blood lineage or inherent money given from previous generations, or who knows what the next thing is. Might be cryptocurrency 200 years from now. Who is the most Bitcoin now gets to rule the world. Who knows? I think just this sounds bad because I'm kind of shitting on my own race of humans, but I think we are just kind of inherently. We'll find a way to screw things up for the majority of everybody else, But that's, and I know that's dismal, but that's also where I come from.
That's exactly why, and I'm going to do a shitty analogy of this, but that's exactly why I like, and I'm not talking about crypto, I'm just talking about blockchain, and I'm going to do a really bad job of this, but that's what's so great.
That's what I was going to get at, is that it can be corrupted too.
It can, no, can be corrupted but blockchain really can't almost, because of the way it is where
humans will find a way. Humans will find a way.
Hear me out here. The whole thing, because you don't know what blockchain is. You just know it as crypto. The whole point is that right now, like banks have ledgers. Everybody's got ledgers where they keep track of stuff. The whole thing with blockchain is in order for you to even be involved, you now have the same ledger as everybody else. And I'm doing a bad job of explaining that. Everybody has a ledger. So if it's like there's a definition used, or not a definition, a description used where they talk about generals at war. If we're all three at war against an enemy, and we know that if we all three team up together, we will succeed. The problem is with a centralized thing where you're sending messages to me and Paul's sending messages to me, I can lie, I can do whatever I want. You can send a message saying, oh, Paul shouldn't go, but then I don't give that message to him or whatever. Everything gets corrupted, and then what happens is Paul goes out there and fights. We decide to sit back, and now we lose because we thought Paul had a chance, but we wanted to save our own skin or whatever. With blockchain and these ledgers where everybody has track of everything, it keeps it to where it's like, oh, we all realize that there's no secrets here, and the only way for us to succeed is for us to all do it together, so that's our only option.
Well, that's beautiful.
And that's a terrible, terrible explanation of
Pal,
that.
you got a better way to explain it, or is
good
that
good
pretty
luck
spot
with
on?
doing that, but
I think because I haven't studied blockchain too much, so I don't know too much about it, the blockchain technology. But I know enough about it to feel that, because I use my intuition a lot, and I can feel that this technology is gonna change the world. It's gonna make people like make money so easy now that there's not gonna be, when people have the money and they're not living in poverty, the world's gonna change and become better. And one of the reasons why things get corrupt, like what you said, that humans always try to corrupt things, is because from in the beginning, like when we were born, like they corrupt our mind already, and when your mind's corrupt, then you're gonna end up doing corrupt things. So imagine if when babies are born and we teach them certain knowledge that empowers them and doesn't lead their mind into corruption, they're gonna grow up. They're gonna grow up and do great things, and they're not gonna have this negative view about the world, and they're not gonna have this idea about like like racism and all that, about wars and all that stuff. They're not gonna want to do that stuff because their minds have been programmed to live in harmony with the laws of the universe or in harmony with mankind.
Beautifully said, man. That's beautiful.
And I'm right there with you. But the problem is that
Somehow
you need to topple the people that are already doing all the evil first off.
But you do that by what he just described. I mean, and it would be tough to do that. But
the next generation, because human beings have finite lives, so allow the people who are doing shitty just to die off, right?
But like Pao said, he said that the awakening is happening now. He said slowly but surely it's happening.
Oh, I think our generation. Do you mind me asking, Pao? How old are you?
39.
You're 39, bro.
Man, you look so much younger than 39. Take that as a
dude. I was
don't take
expecting
that
like
as an
26, dude. Man,
I get
good
that.
for
I get
you.
that.
This guy drinks his vitamin water, man.
But
good for you. Good for you, pal. You're good for
Yeah.
you. Good for you, man.
But like he said, the awakening's happening now, and once that happens, you don't necessarily have to get rid of the evil.
Yeah, that's what I hope. That's what I hope for.
When the awakening happens,
I think I'm more realistic, though. I don't think that's going to happen that way.
It's been a long time that we've been under this spell. A very long time. Like you said, it goes all the way back to Jesus. Like it goes back that far to where they've had this overarching power. And now with the creation of things like technology and the internet and blockchain, it's slowly starting to creep our way, and it's a positive thing. And this is when we can start looking forward. And maybe it's not tomorrow or the next day, but it's slowly happening. The awakening is happening.
Yeah, the social media that's going to be built on blockchain technology, like decentralized the social media, it's going to be like the way I see it, it's going to be amazing. Right? It's going to give us so much voice, like so much power through the media, through the social media that they're not going to be able to silence us, through this technology. And then with that, we can use that to wake up people and empower people through information. Because it's an information war that's going on.
100%.
Absolutely. That's kind of what we try to do with this podcast too. But sometimes it's harder to reach out to a vaster amount of people. But
no, it is. We're trying to provide knowledge. I mean, just like podcasts like this, there's no reason that it should only have 50 views or 100 views. I mean, like, this is important information. There's nothing outlandish that we said in this podcast. You know what I'm saying? It's all very positive type of information. But YouTube saw at one point that there were people like us getting more views than CNN and MSNBC, and they couldn't.
And they were like, "Nope."
They're like, "We can't have this, so we're gonna just kind of shut you up, and we're gonna just promote CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News right in front of your face."
But that's why things like
especially Fox
That's
News.
why things like blockchain and all these other things, if you can have an uncentralized communication hub, which is kind of an oxymoron in itself, an uncentralized hub. But honestly, if you can have an uncentralized hub for communication, that's amazing. If we can all communicate on a platform that Facebook doesn't control, YouTube doesn't control, there's no CEO. Oh, wait, we can. It's called the internet.
Very true.
We can. It's just blocked off right now because everybody's using these different platforms and stuff. But if you just let free reign of communication happen.
So you want 98 to happen again, basically. 1998. That's what you want.
In the early 2000s,
What?
yeah.
1998. I mean, that's like pure, just like raw internet,
No, I'm just saying I want people to be able to communicate, and I think that one day with the correct, I think that we're moving towards that. Like
nothing
like
was
Hal
user
said,
friendly in
people are
98,
waking
though.
up. You'll be able to use your language and your words and your communication to communicate with other people without this overarching censorship and this overarching power telling you what you can and can't say, or letting you say whatever you want, but then secretly stopping your stuff from going out there to the public.
Yeah, that paradigm's it's coming, and they know they can't stop it because they tried to stop Bitcoin, they couldn't do it. So that paradigm of decentralization is coming, and they know it, and they're very scared because they don't want to lose power. But there's nothing they can do to stop it because it's coming. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
They're gonna try though. They're gonna try hard, and
Oh,
they're gonna fight till the end. But in the end, I think mankind's gonna rise above it because that's what we do, right? We always rise above challenges, Because if we didn't do that, we won't be alive right now,
Absolutely. The script always gets flipped, and then we come into play. But then I'll go down that whole road of this cyclical.
Yeah,
like,
let's not go into
hierarchy
that
thing
tonight.
that
I know exactly what you're saying, and
Yeah,
I
but
actually
I'm
agree
not
with you,
gonna go,
Jesse. But
I'm not gonna go down that road.
So you've told us, okay, we're getting close to the end of the hour here, and man, it's been a lot of fun, but we still got, I think,
Wow, this was great, man.
a little bit.
This
We
was
got a
great.
little bit
You
more
blew
time.
my mind, man.
We got a little bit more time, man. Is there anything pressing throughout this podcast that you've kind of thought about that you just didn't get a chance to say, or?
I think I said most of what I wanted to say.
Nice.
I know there's still a lot. I'm sure there's still a lot that I can still talk about, but we can say that for like
Well, no,
next
it's
time.
whenever you got into the legal system, that's when it really hit home for me, man. Because
We could do
that'd
a whole
be a podcast in and of
Yeah.
itself.
No, I
Literally
know.
right there.
No,
Which would be amazing.
And so I don't know if you ever heard of someone named Crow 777, but he's had a multiple of guests on talking about the straw man effect and the legal systems. We've had him on the show before, and I've listened to a lot of his podcasts, and you kind of hit home right there with just the type of language that's in those podcasts. And man, you're right. If we got to focus, and we didn't even know what's going on with our leagues. When I talked about the guests that we had on last week, he's going through that process right now, and he's trying to understand what you were describing.
Yeah, there's always two sides to the legal system. A lot of people that focus on the exoteric part, like the external. I like to focus on the esoteric, the internal. So when you start focusing on the esoteric, the internal part of the legal system, you start getting into like the spiritual part, and it gets down very deep. It gets very deep to like it's all connected, like religion. It's all connected in the legal system. Sometimes people don't see that. They don't think that the legal system is a religious thing, but religion is the basis of the legal system.
I mean, because you get down to morality, and then the oldest morality, like who we are needing to be, is from religion. Because
And it's still
typically
getting
law
to-
is or moral issues.
Yeah.
Like it's a moral issue. Well,
Man,
who
you
is-
know
who
what's
is talking
crazy
about-
is you can't bring morality into law in the legal. Look up, hey, viewers out there, look up jury nullification. The moment you look it up, by the way, you're no longer allowed to be a juror. The moment you know about it, you can't be on the jury anymore. So go
Well,
ahead.
or a felon,
Do that.
or a felon, just
But-
go commit a felony. You can't be.
hold on,
Can't be there either.
In the Michael Floyd jury, he had lied and they said, "Hey, have you ever?" I forget what it was specifically. They had asked him, "Have you ever been?"
George?
Yeah, George Floyd.
George
sorry.
Floyd?
Yeah, they and
'Cause I was like, who's Michael Floyd?
sorry,
George
George Floyd.
Floyd.
Yeah. So
Okay,
sorry.
okay.
So when they were when they were trying to get the jurors and stuff like that, there was a juror where they had asked him a question: "Have you ever been involved in any type of organizations that would be biased towards you being a part of this jury?" And he said no.
Everybody's
He said
fucking
no.
biased.
And they actually pulled a picture of him wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt, and he's actually involved in Black Lives Matter.
But everybody's biased, man. Everybody's
No,
biased.
I know
That's
that.
a weird thing.
But
That's a
you're
weird
talking
thing.
about jury and stuff like that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I mean
But-
that's different from what jury nullification is.
okay.
but
Sorry, that is a lot different. Yeah.
the whole thing with that is that gets in the morality of laws, of what like a law is, where you can go in and know what the law is, and then say not guilty or guilty because you disagree with whatever the law is.
Right.
Which we should apparently just bend over backwards as American citizens and just be like, oh, this is what my government decides to be illegal, so I need to just,
No, Jesse, you would rather watch 3 hours of Chiefs football every Sunday, including me, as opposed to knowing what our rights are.
Trust
and
me,
what
I
words
spend
mean.
enough time worrying about the society that I live in.
I know.
to,
You know what I'm saying.
to be aware of things.
Anyways,
But Pal's still here, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Got to still keep this guy involved, even though we're over the hour.
Yeah. Any lasting thoughts, man? So where can we find your book? I know it's on Amazon, but you have a website as well. How else can we reach you, man?
Yeah, I got a website, esotericknowledge.me. That's the website that I write a lot about the esoteric knowledge. It's that whole website is focused on esoteric knowledge. And then I have a YouTube channel too. It's called the same thing, Esoteric Knowledge. If you just type in my name, Pao Chang, then you can find it. Because when you type in esoteric knowledge, sometimes it doesn't show up. So.
By the way, when I typed in esoteric knowledge or just esoteric in the Google search, I could not find you, or I did not find you. But when I went on DuckDuckGo and I typed in that same thing, you were one of the first websites to pop up.
Crazy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they like to censor this type of knowledge, though, because they don't want you. Because this knowledge is very empowering. Like when I start learning this stuff, like I feel my body just changing because it's so empowering. You can just feel it. It's like you can feel your soul just waking up from all this.
That's
It's
awesome.
like it's like your soul been asleep, and then you start learning stuff, and it's like the knowledge just wakes up your soul every day more and more and more.
You keep writing books,
It's
man.
amazing,
You'll do that.
man.
You'll do that to other people, man. And
Keep doing what you're doing. I'm not going to say that I 100% agree with everything you've said tonight, but I think you're an amazing person, and you need to keep doing what you're doing. And I want to hear more from you, man. I want to hear that you're keeping at this, because what you're doing is important. Even though it might just be over my head, I don't know. I don't necessarily 100% agree with it. I can tell you are of good intention, man, which is rare. You are of good, sound mind and soul, and doing good, man. So keep doing it.
Thank you.
Keep doing it.
yeah, all those things, all the things you described will definitely be in the link below. People will be able to find you there. But Johnny, do you have anything else for Pao?
No, I'm good. Jesse put it best.
Yeah,
best
man.
talking about how I may not understand it all because I don't understand the language or the communication, but it's about the context. You have the correct context. You're striving for good here. Even if I may disagree with parts or not understand parts, it's obvious that you're doing the right thing.
You really are, man. You really are.
Pay attention to words. Like, just when you start paying attention to words, you start seeing how it's all connected. Because like I told you before, words are they're like the breadcrumbs that leads you to a source. So when you start paying attention to words and study the definition, when you start that definition, study the words in the definition too, and it can go on and on. And it's a lot of work. That's why a lot of people don't want to. It takes a lot of time too. That's why a lot of people don't like to look into the words, because you have to take it for me to decipher a word. It can take me like hours. So it's a lot of work.
Well, and for me, it'd be interesting to go back and whenever you would practice, dictionary words and stuff like that in high school, I'd be curious just to go back and again, this is the conspiracy side of me, and see because we know when we're in high school or grade school or anything like that. To me, it's an indoctrination camp. But it would be interesting to see what the words they were that we had to learn, because you don't learn them all, like you said. You just learn a specific few or a couple thousand or whatever it is. One, it'd be interesting to see what those words are, because I would just be curious. And no, I forgot.
They're the words you speak right now.
No, I know that, but they teach you specific words, and then you have to learn the definition and stuff like that. But and the second thing is just like speaking and talking, we take that for granted. And like you said, Pal, like if we just looked into it a little bit more, we might understand things a little bit better, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And you put it best, man. So I don't know if there's any lasting things that you have to say, man.
I think that was it. Like what I want people to do is, what I like to see people do more is just pay attention to words, and not, when you pay attention to the way you speak words too. Because when people start changing the way they speak, the way they see words, the world will change. It's going to change subtly, but it will change. That's how I see it. So.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks for joining Talk Junkies, man.
Fascinating, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating.
Well,
you're amazing, man.
We'll have everything in the links below for people to find you, whoever looks on Talk Junkies, on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all those great platforms, man, and a few others too. Thank you very much, man, for coming on. I greatly appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll talk to you again sometime soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Have a great night, pal.
Thank you,
You
sir.
too. Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, now the awkward part where we both try to figure out how to quit out of Zoom. My favorite part.
Every time at the end of every podcast.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Pao Chang. Check his book out. The links will be below. Check out his YouTube channel. He's got a lot of great content on there as well. Thanks again, man, for coming on the show. You're more than welcome to share this on your YouTube channel, copy it, put it on there, whatever it is you want to do, man. Greatly appreciate you.
Burn DVD copies of it.
Yes.
Put it in mailboxes.
Hey,
whatever
whoa! Piracy. You wouldn't download a car.
Pirate our shit. I don't give a shit.
You wouldn't download a car. I
That'd be
hate that 'cause I'm
flattering.
like, you know what?
That'd
I
be
would
so
download a
flattering.
car. If you let me, I would download a car.
Oh, yeah, 3D print it?
Yeah.
Why not? But hopefully you guys enjoyed Pao Chang coming on the show. I would definitely love to have him on again if he ever wanted to. Great information, man. I've heard of the type of things that he talks about. And again, having Zachary Hubbard on and talking about numerology. And granted, it's probably a little bit different than esoteric knowledge. But the way he put it was very simplistic, and I was able to understand it on an easy level. Great guy, man. Like you said, Jesse, you couldn't put it any better.
Absolutely. Even though there were some things that were either over my head or I disagreed with, but there is still so much genuine, just like trying to make right of the world.
Sure.
Basically.
That's the best
And
way
legal
to put it.
and realistically, if we ever get him back on, just focus on the legal side of
Oh,
things.
I'd love
Would
to
be
have a
massive,
podcast that's just about the legal
because
side of it.
that would be hugely informative.
If you're over from, if you're listening on Talk Junkies, go over to his channel. Let him know that Talk Junkies sent you. That'd be awesome in one of his comments on one of his videos, because that's what this YouTube channel is all about, is just spreading knowledge and having great people on.
Yeah.
So the best thing that you guys could do, honestly, for Talk Junkies is, one, share the shit out of this video to all your friends. Get on your messenger on Facebook and click the share all to all contacts, and just press that button to the URL of this podcast.
And to delete your
Nothing like-
Facebook.
nothing like spam.
And
And
then
delete your Facebook.
afterwards.
But you know what I'm saying? Or send it to a few friends. If one of 600 people, or if you know what I'm saying, if just one
If
person.
there's someone who has similar interests as you and you think they would be interested, let them know.
Yeah, start there, but then eventually you got to broaden your horizon, and kind of send it out to people you don't think would be interested, and maybe they will be. You never know until they listen. But yes, so share it, like it, hit that subscribe button to all our junkies out there.
Stay fly and pow the bell.